Welcome to Crisis in Perception, where we examine the systems shaping our world one book at a time.
Though today we are taking a slight detour from our standard operating procedure, we are putting the books down, figuratively speaking, of course, to pick up a film.
That's right. Usually we take a dense piece of political theory or, economic history, something by Adam Smith or Marx or Piketty, and we break it down. But today, we're looking at a narrative case study.
Mm-hmm.
We are looking at Alfonso Cuarón's 2006 film, Children of Men. Now, I can hear the listeners asking, why a movie?
Right.
We usually deal in hard data, structural analysis, and nonfiction here. Is this like a pivot to pop culture?
And before anyone reaches for the skip button thinking we've pivoted to film criticism, let me just set the ground rules.
Please.
We are not here to discuss the cinematography, the acting, or the plot beats in the traditional sense. We aren't doing a review. I really don't care about the Rotten Tomatoes score.
No star ratings today. No thumbs up or down.
Exactly. We are treating this film as a diagnostic model. We are treating the world depicted in Children of Men as a fully functioning system diagram of a specific type of governance.
A system diagram. I like that framing.
Yeah. We're going to look at the mechanics of that world and analyze them using the theoretical lenses we've been building up in previous deep dives. Thinkers like Giorgio Agamben, Hannah Arendt, Michel Foucault.
Naomi Klein, Zygmunt Bauman, all the heavy hitters.
All of them. So consider this a structural analysis of governance under what you could call a permanent crisis.
So the mission today is to figure out what happens to a society's operating system when it loses its future.
Right.
We aren't just watching a story about a guy trying to save a baby. We're watching a simulation of how a state apparatus metabolizes despair.
Perfectly put. Which brings us to the core context. Why this film? Why does a sci-fi movie from 2006 matter to a show about systems analysis in, today?
Well, let's look at the narrative spine. The premise is famous. It's 2027, which, let's be honest, is uncomfortably close for us now, and humanity is infertile. No babies have been born in 18 years. But if you watch closely, the structural question isn't really about biology, is it?
No, and that's the genius of the setup. The infertility is just the catalyst. In scientific terms, it's the independent variable. It's the what if.
Okay.
But the dependent variable, the thing we're actually studying, is how the institutions of power react to that reality. The film is modeling what you might call late-stage governance.
Okay, let's unpack that term, late-stage governance. It sounds ominous, like late-stage capitalism, but, applied to the state itself.
Think about what the role of a government usually is. Theoretically, at least since the dawn of the modern nation-state, governance is about development.
Building for the future.
Exactly. It's about building for the next generation. Infrastructure, education, long-term fiscal planning. It's all predicated on the idea that there will be a tomorrow. The social contract is basically, you follow the laws today so your children have a better life tomorrow.
But in the film, there is no next generation.
There's no long-term. There's nothing to build towards.
Right. If there's no future, you can't run on a platform of a better tomorrow. Tomorrow doesn't exist as a political concept.
Yeah.
So what is the government actually doing? If you can't build schools because there are no students, and you can't build for the future because there isn't one, what is the job description of the prime minister?
The system shifts. It has to. It shifts from solving problems to containing them. And this is key. Containing them.
Yes. Collapse in this film isn't shown as a sudden explosion or a zombie apocalypse. It isn't an asteroid hitting the Earth. It's shown as administrative maintenance. It's a slow, grinding bureaucracy of decline.
It's the banality of the apocalypse. That's what always struck me about this movie. It feels so mundane. You see people still going to work, grabbing coffee, riding the bus.
Yeah.
But everything is just slightly grayer, more militarized. It's not Mad Max. It's London, but broken. It's a collapse that still requires paperwork. That's why films like this can function as systems diagrams. Children of Men specifically visualizes this idea of loss of futurity. And when you remove the future from the equation, politics strips down to its rawest form, crisis management and security.
There is no development. There is only the preservation of the status quo for as long as possible. It becomes a holding action.
Just holding the line until the lights go out.
So let's jump into the machinery. We've organized this deep dive into 4 main segments of analysis to see how this clockwork operates. We need to look at how the government manages the mood, how it manages the space, how it manages the people, and how it manages the culture. First up, we have to talk about the atmosphere of the world itself, the constant state of alarm.
We're calling this segment the normalization of emergency. And for this, we need to pull down 2 heavy hitters from our bookshelf. Naomi Klein and Giorgio Agamben.
Let's anchor this in the opening scene. If you've seen the film, you remember it. It's visceral. We're in a coffee shop on a gray London morning. It's crowded. People are jostling for position.
Right.
Everyone is watching the news on a TV mounted in the corner. The report is about baby Diego, the youngest person on Earth, dying at age 18.
And you have to note the reaction of the crowd. This is a global celebrity, the symbol of the last hope of humanity. People are crying. They are devastated.
But it's a strange kind of devastation.
Yes. Look closer at the quality of that devastation. It's a passive devastation. They are watching it like a soap opera or a royal funeral. It's news as spectacle.
And then the protagonist, Theo, walks out. He pushes through the crowd. He puts alcohol in his coffee, which tells you a lot about his state of mind right off the bat. He walks down the street, and boom.
The coffee shop explodes.
A massive terrorist attack. Glass everywhere, smoke, bodies. The camera rings. Literally, the sound design simulates tinnitus. But watch what happens immediately after.
The ringing in the ears fades. The police sirens start. And life just continues.
That's the terrifying part for me. It's not the explosion. It's the recovery speed. It's how quickly the routine reasserts itself. Theo just goes to work. The people on the street don't run around screaming like they would in a disaster movie.
They just sort of hunch their shoulders and keep moving.
It's just another Tuesday.
This is where we apply Naomi Klein's concept of the shock doctrine. Klein argues that moments of crisis, terror attacks, natural disasters, economic collapses are used by power structures to push through social engineering that people would never accept in normal times.
She calls it the blank slate, right? The trauma disorients the population, and while they are reeling, the state rewrites the rules.
Exactly. It's like when you're in a car accident, you're confused and someone shoves a waiver in your face. You sign it because you just want the noise to stop.
That's a good analogy.
In the film, the population is in a permanent state of shock. The infertility, the bombings, the economic collapse of the rest of the world, it leaves the British population in a state of what you could call crisis normalization.
They're just used to it.
They are so disoriented by the trauma that they accept a level of authoritarian control that would be unthinkable otherwise. They accept the cages on the streets because they're still, ringing from the explosion.
And that leads us directly to Giorgio Agamben. His work can be pretty dense. He loves his Latin terms. But his core idea about the state of exception fits this perfectly.
It really does. Agamben asks a fundamental question about law. Usually the law protects citizens. We have a constitution. We have rights. But in an emergency, say a war or a plague, the government can declare a state of exception.
Right, they can suspend the rules.
They bypass the law to theoretically save the law. We have to suspend your privacy to catch the terrorists, or we have to enforce a curfew to stop the riots. Agamben's warning is, what happens when the emergency never ends?
The exception becomes the rule. The temporary measure becomes the permanent architecture of the state.
Correct. In Children of Men, the emergency is permanent. The government isn't trying to fix the infertility. They can't. So instead, they use the fear of the chaos, the fear of the state of nature, to maintain absolute power.
They govern through the exception.
Constantly. The normal rights of a citizen are suspended indefinitely because of the crisis. You see this on the propaganda screens in the trains. It's always reminding people of the threats, justifying the heavy hand of the state.
There's a specific mechanism in the film that demonstrates this perfectly, but it's not a gun or a cage. It's a product.
The quietus kits.
Ah, yes, the suicide kits.
You see these billboards in the background. Quietus. You decide when. It's a state-sponsored suicide product. It's advertised like a vacation package or a soft drink.
It has soothing music, beautiful imagery of a sunset. It's eerie because it's so corporate, so polished.
It is.
This is the ultimate expression of governance without hope. If the state cannot offer you a future, if they cannot offer you protection of life in the long term, they shift to providing services for managed death. It's incredibly dark, but from a systems perspective, it's rational, isn't it?
It is coldly rational. It's administrative efficiency applied to despair. The system says, we cannot solve the structural problem, which is the end of humanity, but we can help you exit the system efficiently so you don't cause a scene.
It's maintenance.
It's cleaning up the mess before it happens. It turns suicide into a civic duty almost. Don't be a burden. Take quietus.
So we have a population kept in check by shock and offered a tidy exit if they can't take it. But what about the people who stay? That brings us to our second segment, security replacing legitimacy.
This is where Michel Foucault enters the conversation, and specifically his later work on security and territory.
The scene anchor here is the commute. We see Theo taking the train and the bus through London, and the background details are overwhelming.
They really are.
There are cages on the sidewalks, heavy police presence everywhere, propaganda signs that say, "Report illegal immigrants." The windows of the train are covered in wire mesh because people throw rocks at them.
It's a militarized zone, but it's treated as a commute. No one is looking out the window in horror. They're reading the paper. They are completely desensitized to the fact that they're traveling through a prison state.
Foucault talks about biopolitics. Now, that is a term that gets thrown around a lot in grad school seminars, and it can be confusing. Can you break that down for us in this context? What does it actually mean for the average citizen in this movie?
Sure, let's simplify it. Foucault tracks a shift in history. In the old days, think medieval times, sovereign power was the king. The king had the power to kill you. That was the definition of power. The right to take life.
The power of the sword.
Exactly. If you broke the law, you were executed. Simple. It was a very direct, top-down form of power.
Right. Power was top-down and violent.
But in the modern era, Foucault argues we move to governmentality or biopower. The state's role became to manage the population, to optimize life, to make the population productive. It wasn't just about killing enemies, it was about counting citizens, vaccinating them, educating them, ensuring they could work in factories.
Counting people, organizing people, making sure the GDP goes up. It's the state as a shepherd of the flock, sort of.
Exactly. But here is the twist in Children of Men. Because there is no future population to optimize, the state shifts entirely to security mechanisms.
Okay.
Foucault argues that modern liberalism is obsessed with the management of danger. It establishes a culture of danger to justify its own interventions. The state no longer promises the good life, it promises survival.
So the logic becomes, if you don't let us put these cages up, the terrorists or the refugees or the chaos will get you.
That is the trade. Security replaces legitimacy. The government in the film doesn't claim to be good or just. It doesn't claim to represent the will of the people. It claims only one thing. We are the only thing standing between you and the chaos outside.
It's a protection racket.
It's the ultimate protection racket. Nice life you have here. Shame if the Fijis destroyed it.
There's a visual motif the film uses that really reinforces this, which is the long take.
All right.
Crichton is famous for this. The camera follows the characters for minutes at a time without cutting.
And from a systems perspective, the long take is fascinating. It implies continuity of control. Usually in a film, a cut gives you a break. It moves you in time or space. It gives you a breath.
It allows you to blink, essentially.
Right. But here, the camera just stares. It floats. You can't look away. You are forced to see the graffiti, the piles of burning cattle, the refugees in cages.
There's no escape.
It mimics the gaze of the surveillance state. It implies that the system is seamless. There are no gaps in the coverage. Whether you are on the train, walking the street, or hiding in a building, the environment of control is unbroken. There is no outside to the system.
So the viewer becomes complicit because we are forced to witness everything without the ability to look away.
That's a great way to put it.
Which is ironic because the system is obsessed with defining who is outside. This leads us to our third and honestly most harrowing segment. Surplus populations.
This is the heart of the film's political critique. We need to talk about the refugees. In the film, they're called Fugees.
The scene that sticks with everyone is the Bexhill refugee camp. It looks like a concentration camp. We see people in cages, being herded onto buses, beaten, treated like animals.
It's hell on earth.
And the protagonist has to move through this space. And remember, the film posits that Britain's the only country soldiering on, so everyone is trying to get in, and Britain is brutalizing them to keep him out.
To understand Bexhill, we need Zygmunt Bauman and his concept of wasted lives, and we also need Hannah Arendt's work on statelessness.
Let's start with Bauman. He talks about surplus populations. What does he mean by that?
Right. Bauman argues that modern economic and political systems inevitably produce waste. Not just trash, but human waste.
Human waste.
People who are no longer economically useful to the market and no longer politically useful to the state. In a globalized economy, if you can't produce and you can't consume, you are surplus.
And in a world without a future, everyone is essentially becoming useless, but the refugees are the first to go.
They are the canary in the coal mine. The system in Children of Men treats refugees not as people who need help, but as a management problem. They are matter out of place.
A management problem.
And this is Bauman's core insight. The system doesn't fail when it creates a place like Bexhill. It is working as designed. It is applying efficiency logic to humans. If you cannot integrate them because you have no resources or future, you must contain them. You treat them like toxic waste.
It's the logic of the landfill applied to human beings. You just move the problem to the edge of the map and fence it off.
Brutal, but accurate. And this connects directly to Hannah Arendt. She wrote extensively in The Origins of Totalitarianism about the rights of man.
The idea that we have rights just because we are human, we're born with them, we hold these truths to be self-evident.
Arendt was very skeptical of that. She looked at what happened in WWII and argued that the concept of human rights collapses the moment a person loses their specific political community, their state.
So when you become stateless,
You find out that there are no human rights, only civil rights. If you don't have a passport, if you don't have a government to enforce your rights, you have none.
without a government to enforce them, your rights just evaporate. So being human isn't enough to protect you.
Precisely. The refugees in Bexhill have lost the right to have rights. They are reduced to what Agamben calls bare life.
Bare life.
Biological life without legal standing. They can be killed or caged without it being considered a crime because they fall outside the legal order. The law applies to citizens. These people are just bodies.
There is a quote from the source novel by P.D. James that really nails this. The Warden of England, Zan, says, generosity is a virtue for individuals, not governments. When governments are generous, it is with other people's safety.
That is the terrifying logic of the security state. It reframes cruelty as a duty. It says, we are locking these people up to protect you.
The good citizen.
Right. Legitimacy is no longer about shared values or morality. It is strictly about security for the privileged inside against the surplus populations outside. It tells the citizens, you might be miserable, but at least you aren't them.
It creates an us versus them dynamic that justifies anything. We have to be monsters to them so we can be safe for us.
But the film shows us that the U.S. isn't doing so great either. They're just sedated.
Yeah.
Which brings us to our fourth segment, culture as archival sedation.
This is the scene at the Ark of the Arts. Theo goes to visit his cousin, who is a high-ranking government official. He lives in this pristine, high-security apartment that overlooks the smog-choked city.
It's literally the Battersea Power Station.
Converted into a fortress. And inside, he has Michelangelo's David.
But it's missing a leg. It's broken.
Right. This is a damaged masterpiece. And he has Picasso's Guernica on the wall. It's this incredible collection of human achievement gathered in one room.
This scene is vital. This is culture as sedation. The world outside is burning. People are starving. Refugees are being executed. But inside, the elite are curating the past.
It's an absolute disconnect.
A total disconnect between the preservation of culture and the preservation of life.
It felt like a mausoleum.
That's exactly what it is. When a society loses its future, it becomes obsessed with its past. Nostalgia becomes a substitute for hope. We curate the past because we cannot imagine a tomorrow.
But who is he saving it for?
No one. The cousin isn't saving the art for anyone. There are no future generations to see it. He's saving it just to have it. It's possession as a substitute for meaning.
It's like we can't save the people, but we can save the statues.
It's more than that. It's the idea that art and culture, stripped of their context, become just decorative distractions. Take Guernica. Do you know what Guernica is about?
It's about the bombing of a Basque town. It's an anti-fascist, anti-war scream of pain.
Exactly. It is a painting about the horrors of war and fascism. And there it is, hanging on the wall of a fascist bureaucrat while he eats a nice dinner.
The meaning is gone.
It's completely hollowed out. It's just an asset. It's just wallpaper. The system has absorbed the critique and turned it into decoration.
It's hollow.
It's archival. It's the behavior of a curator at the end of the world. Let's organize the exhibits nicely before the lights go out. It's a way of pretending that civilization still exists, even though the moral foundation of it has completely collapsed.
So we've looked at these four components. Normalization of the horror, security replacing legitimacy, the creation of surplus populations, and this cultural sedation. But I want to map how they fit together. Why does this system work? Why doesn't everyone just revolt? We see some rebellion in the movie, but the general public seems, docile.
That's the feedback loop. The system persists because it has created a self-reinforcing cycle. You can map it out like a circuit board.
Okay, walk us through the loop.
It starts with fear. The fear of the end, the fear of the other, the fear of the chaos in the red zones. This isn't abstract fear. It's the fear of the coffee shop explosion.
It's visceral.
Right. And this fear drives the demand for security. People accept the cages, the checkpoints, and the suicide kits because they are terrified of the alternative.
And that security creates normalization.
Exactly. Once the cages are up, they become part of the landscape. You stop seeing them, the shock wears off. And that passivity, that normalization allows the fear to continue unchecked.
So it's a cycle.
It's a closed loop. Fear leads to security, which leads to normalization, which circles back to allow more fear. It creates a closed system where the only solution to the problem is more of the problem.
And holding it all together is the narrative, the story the state tells, the narrative of realism.
Yes, the state convinces the public that there is no alternative. It's ugly, but it's necessary. That is the most powerful weapon of authoritarianism, the destruction of the imagination. If you can't imagine a different way of living, you will endure anything.
The system doesn't have to be good. It just has to be the only option.
The genius of the system in Children of Men is that it doesn't say, we are a paradise. It says, we are the only lifeboat.
This is why the Human Project in the film is so interesting. It's the resistance group, but they are elusive. They aren't holding rallies. They aren't trying to win an election.
And notice where they are. They are on a boat, offshore, in the fog. The boat's name is the Tomorrow.
They aren't in London trying to storm the Parliament.
No, and that is a crucial systems insight. The film is telling us that renewal is non-institutional. The solution cannot come from within the state system because the state is optimized for the status quo.
It can't fix itself.
It's designed to manage the decline, not to reverse it. Hope, literally and metaphorically, has to come from the outside.
From the water, from the fog, from the unknown. That's a scary thought for people who want order.
It is. The system hates the unknown. The system wants predictability, but life, new life, the future, is inherently unpredictable. You cannot bureaucratize a miracle.
Now, I want to pivot. We aren't in 2027 yet, but this deep dive isn't just about a movie. It's about crisis in perception. How do we connect these patterns to the present day without being alarmist?
Right.
Because it's easy to say, oh, look, the world is ending, but we want to be analytical.
We have to be careful not to frame this as prophecy. We aren't saying this is exactly what will happen, but we are saying these mechanisms are already running. The software is installed. Children of Men just shows us what happens when you run it at maximum capacity.
Okay, so let's look at the border regimes we see globally right now.
The management of surplus populations is arguably the defining challenge of the 21st century. Whether it's climate refugees, economic migrants, or people fleeing conflict, we are seeing the exact logic of Bexhill being applied today.
The logic of containment.
Yes, we see the rise of detention centers, offshore processing, the criminalization of movement.
It's the logic of, we don't know what to do with you, so we will put you in a box where we don't have to see you.
It's a containment strategy. We are moving away from the idea of asylum and integration toward deterrence and containment, and then look at crisis politics. Naomi Klein's work is arguably more relevant now than when she wrote it. We see states of exception being declared for everything: terror, pandemics, economic crashes.
And rarely are those emergency powers fully rolled back, are they?
That's the key. The ratchet only turns one way. Once a security mechanism is installed, take airport security post 9/11 as a benign example, it becomes the new baseline. It becomes the furniture of our lives.
You just get used to it.
We forget that it wasn't always there. We accept the intrusion because we prioritize the feeling of safety.
And Klein also talks about disaster apartheid.
The green zones and the red zones, we see this in how cities are developing, gated communities with private security for the wealthy, the green zones.
And neglected, over-policed infrastructure for the poor, the red zones.
Exactly. Children of Men just takes that to its logical extreme. The green zone is Britain, the red zone is the rest of the world. But you can see this dynamic in almost any major city today, the privatization of survival.
It's systems over individuals. That's what strikes me. In the film, the bad guys aren't necessarily twirling mustaches. They are just bureaucrats doing their jobs. The soldiers are just following orders.
That is the banality of evil that Arendt warned us about. The villain isn't a person. It's a rational administrative system that has decided that managing despair is more efficient than fixing the world.
It's a system where everyone is just doing their job.
And the result is a concentration camp.
So, connecting this back to our show's theme, perception. Why is this a crisis in perception?
Because governance happens through perception. Foucault calls it a regime of truth. If the state can control the perception of inevitability, if they can make you believe that this reality, no matter how brutal, is the only possible reality, they maintain power.
Even if they have no legitimacy.
They don't need you to love them. They just need you to resign yourself to them.
Awareness is insufficient. That's the hard pill to swallow. The characters in the film know the system is bad. Theo knows. The people in the coffee shop know. They aren't brainwashed. But awareness doesn't stop the system.
We tend to think if people only knew the truth, things would change. But here, everyone knows.
And nothing changes.
The system relies on passivity, not ignorance. It relies on the feeling of being overwhelmed. It relies on the quietest option, the desire to just check out because the problems seem too big to solve. The greatest trick the system plays is convincing you that your agency is gone.
So what does this all mean? If we look at Children of Man as a complete map of late-stage governance, what is the final lesson? Because the movie doesn't end in the camp. It ends on the water.
I think it reveals that the most dangerous thing to a system of managed decline is actually hope.
Hope is destabilizing. It sounds counterintuitive. Usually we think governments want hopeful people.
Governments want optimistic people who buy things. They don't necessarily want hopeful people who want structural change. Think about the baby in the film. The first baby in 18 years. Key, the refugee mother, reveals the baby in the middle of a battle in the refugee camp.
It's an incredible scene. The baby cries, and the war stops.
Nothing stops.
The soldiers freeze. The rebels freeze. The machinery of death pauses.
It's an interruption. It's a rupture in the logic of the system. The baby represents a future. And the moment you reintroduce a future, the logic of maintenance collapses.
Because you have something to build for again.
You have to start thinking about building again. You have to start thinking about the long term. And that is messy. That breaks the security loop.
It completely undermines it.
Exactly. If there is a future, then the state of exception isn't justified anymore. If there is a future, surplus populations aren't surpluses anymore. They are potential citizens. The film suggests that restoring a future is actually more destabilizing to the current order than simply managing the chaos.
Real change requires breaking the security loop, and that is terrifying. But the alternative is the quietus.
It's the choice between a messy, unpredictable life and a tidy, administered death. That is the choice the film leaves us with. And it doesn't tell us it's going to be easy.
No, it definitely doesn't.
It ends on a boat, in the fog, drifting. We don't see the human project save them. We just see the possibility it's drifting towards something.
A powerful place to leave it. This film and the lenses of Klein, Agamben, Foucault, and Arntz show us that we have to watch the mechanisms of our own world closely. We have to notice when the exception becomes the rule. We have to notice when security replaces legitimacy.
And we have to refuse the sedation. We have to keep imagining a future, even when the system tells us there isn't one. Because the moment we stop imagining it, we guarantee it won't happen.
This project is free and publicly accessible. If you'd like to support the time, tools, and research behind Crisis in Perception, you can become a supporter on Patreon.
For a shorter visual overview of this topic, see the mini explainer linked in the description.
If you enjoy this kind of systems-level analysis, please like, subscribe, and comment with books or topics you'd like us to explore next.